From the moment you took your first steps into this world, you were being shaped, not just by what people told you, but by what they expected you to hide. You fell as a child, and before you could even understand the pain, someone said, "Get up, don't cry." You felt fear, and someone whispered, "Be brave, don't show it." You were hurt, confused, overwhelmed, and instead of being taught how to process it, you were taught how to suppress it. And little by little, without even realizing it, you started building a version of yourself that the world would accept. Not the real you, but the acceptable you. You learned that strength meant silence. You learned that being respected meant being emotionally untouchable. You learned that if you showed too much, felt too deeply, or expressed too honestly, you would be judged, rejected, or seen as less. So what did you do? You adapted. You became stronger on the outside, but quieter on the inside. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You nodded when you wanted to break down. You carried things that were never meant to be carried alone, and the world applauded you for it. They called you strong. They called you disciplined. They said, "Look at how well you handle everything," but they never asked what it was costing you. Because strength, real strength, is not about how much you can hold in. It's about how honest you're willing to be when everything inside you is asking to be released. See, the lie was never obvious. It didn't come to you as something dangerous. It came disguised as advice, as protection, as survival. Don't let them see you weak. Keep your guard up. Handle your business and keep it moving. And you believed it, you lived by it, you built your identity around it. But let me tell you something that might shake you. If you have to hide who you are to be accepted, then what you're receiving is not acceptance. It's approval for a performance. And performances don't heal you. They exhaust you. Because every single day you wake up and play a role. You measure your words, you filter your emotions, you calculate how much of yourself is safe to reveal. And over time, you start losing track of who you really are beneath all of that. That's the real danger of the lie. It doesn't just silence your pain. It disconnects you from your truth. You stop asking yourself how you feel because you've been trained to ignore it. You stop expressing what you need because you've been taught to handle it alone. You stop showing your real self because you're afraid it won't be enough. But hear me clearly, you were never designed to live like that. You were never meant to carry everything in silence. You were never meant to wear strength like armor 24/7. You were never meant to suppress the very emotions that make you human. Because those emotions, that vulnerability, that's not your weakness, that's your connection to yourself, to others, to life. And when you deny that, when you bury it, when you pretend it doesn't exist, you don't become stronger, you become numb. And numbness is not power, it's disconnection. True power is being able to stand in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable. True power is saying, this is what I feel, and I'm not ashamed of it. True power is dropping the act and realizing you don't need to perform to be worthy, because the strongest version of you is not the one who hides everything. It's the one who has the courage to face everything. It's the one who has the courage to face everything. So now I want you to think about this, really think about it, how much of your life has been built on trying to appear strong instead of actually being real. How many moments have you swallowed your truth just to keep the image intact? And more importantly, how much longer are you willing to carry that weight? Every time you choose to hide what's real inside you, you think you're protecting yourself. You tell yourself it's safer this way, safer to stay quiet, safer to keep it together, safer to not let anyone see what's really going on beneath the surface. And for a moment, it feels like control. But what you don't realize is that every time you suppress your truth, you're making a silent trade. You're trading authenticity for approval. You're trading connection for protection. You're trading peace for the illusion of strength. And the cost of that trade is heavier than you think. Because pretending doesn't just fool the world, it starts to fool you. You wake up one day and you don't even recognize yourself anymore, not because you've grown, but because you've been hiding for so long, you've forgotten what it feels like to be real. You start saying, I'm fine, so often that it becomes automatic, even when you're not, especially when you're not. You sit in rooms full of people laughing, talking, engaging, and yet there's this quiet distance inside you because no one in that room truly knows you, not the real you. They know the version you present, the polished version, the controlled version, but not the one that's carrying the weight, not the one that needs to be heard, not the one that's asking silently for someone to understand. And that's the cost. Loneliness, even when you're not alone. Because real connection doesn't come from perfection. It comes from truth. And if you never show your truth, you never experience real connection. You just experience interactions, surface level conversations, shallow relationships, moments that look full on the outside but feel empty on the inside. And over time, that emptiness grows, not because life is against you, but because you've been living behind a wall that nothing real can get through. See, when you hide your struggles, you don't just hide your pain. You block your struggles. You don't just hide your pain. You block your healing. Because healing requires honesty. It requires acknowledgement. It requires you to face what's there instead of pretending it's not. But if you keep pushing it down, ignoring it, covering it up, it doesn't disappear. It builds. It turns into stress you can't explain. Frustration that comes out in the wrong moments. Emotions that feel too big, too heavy, too overwhelming because they've been waiting too long to be released. And then one day, it spills over, not because you're weak, but because you've been strong in the wrong way for too long. You've been holding everything in, thinking that's strength, when real strength would have been letting it out. And let's go even deeper. When you hide who you are, you start attracting people who only connect with who you pretend to be. Think about that. If you show the world a mask, don't be surprised when people fall in love with the mask. Don't be surprised when they don't understand you, when they can't support you, when they don't see you, because you never gave them the chance to. And that's not their fault. That's the cost of hiding. You lose the opportunity to be truly known, truly understood, truly accepted. Because real acceptance only happens when the real you is present, not the edited version, not the filtered version, you. And here's the hardest truth of all. The longer you hide, the heavier it gets. What starts as protection turns into pressure. What starts as control turns into confinement. And eventually, you feel trapped. Trapped in your own image, trapped in expectations, trapped in a life where you can't even express what you truly feel. That's not strength, that's a silent prison. But the moment you recognize the cost, the moment you see what hiding is really taking from you, that's when something shifts. Because now it's no longer about fear, it's about freedom. And freedom starts with a choice to stop pretending. A choice to stop carrying everything alone, a choice to let your truth breathe. So let me ask you something. Be real with yourself right now. What is it costing you to keep hiding, and is that cost really worth it? Let's clear something up right now, because a lot of people hear the word vulnerability and immediately misunderstand it. They think it means being weak. They think it means losing control. They think it means exposing everything to everyone without boundaries. And that misunderstanding is exactly why so many people run from it. But real vulnerability is none of that. It's not about breaking down in front of the world. It's not about telling your story to people who haven't earned the right to hear it. And it's definitely not about losing your strength. Vulnerability is precision. It's awareness. It's courage in its purest form. It's the ability to stand in your truth without hiding, without shrinking, without pretending to be something you're not. That's what it really is. It's when you look in the mirror and stop lying to yourself. You stop saying, I'm fine, when you're not. You stop pretending you don't care when you do. You stop acting like something didn't hurt you when it clearly did. That honesty right there, that moment where you face yourself without filters, that's vulnerability. And let me tell you something that takes more strength than anything else you've been doing. Because it's easy to put on a mask. It's easy to play a role. It's easy to stay guarded and keep people at a distance. But it's hard, really hard to be real. To say, yeah, that hurt me. To admit, I don't have it all figured out. To acknowledge I'm struggling right now, that's not weakness. That's courage, stepping into the light. And here's where people get it twisted. They think vulnerability means letting everyone see everything. No, vulnerability is not about exposure. It's about authenticity. It's about choosing truth over performance. It's about knowing who deserves access to your story and having the strength to share it where it matters. Because not everyone deserves your openness, but you deserve to be open with yourself. That's the foundation. If you can't be honest with yourself, you'll never be real with anyone else. And if you're not real, you'll never experience anything real. Not real love, not real connection, not real peace. Because all of those things require you to show up as you are, not as who you think you need to be. Let me give you something to sit with. There is power in saying, I don't know. There is power in saying, I need help. There is power in saying, I feel this and I'm not ashamed of it. That's not losing control. That's taking control of your truth. Because when you own your emotions, they don't control you anymore. When you acknowledge your fears, they lose their grip on you. When you stop running from what you feel, you stop being chased by it. That's what vulnerability does. It puts you back in the driver's seat of your own life. And suddenly, you're not reacting anymore. You are responding. You're not hiding anymore. You're expressing. You're not surviving anymore. You're living. And that shift changes everything, because now you're no longer defined by the image you project. You're defined by the truth you live. And people feel that. They may not always understand it, but they feel it. They feel the authenticity. They feel the realness. They feel the absence of pretending. And that kind of presence, it's powerful. It draws the right people in. It creates deeper conversations. It builds trust that doesn't need to be forced. Because when you're real, you give others permission to be real too. And that's how connection is born, not through perfection, but through honesty. So don't confuse vulnerability with weakness ever again. Weakness is hiding. Weakness is pretending. Weakness is pretending. Weakness is denying what's real just to look strong. But vulnerability, that's strength with no mask. That's courage with no filter. That's you standing fully in who you are without apology. So the next time you feel that urge to hide, to shut down, to pretend like everything is okay, pause and ask yourself, what would it look like if I chose truth in this moment? There comes a moment in every life where the act gets too heavy to carry. You've been holding it together for so long, keeping everything in place, keeping everything controlled, keeping everything hidden, that one day, without warning, something inside you just says, enough. And it doesn't ask politely. It shows up in the quiet moments. When you're alone and the silence gets loud, when there's no one to perform for, no one to impress, no one to convince that you're okay. It shows up when you're tired, not just physically, but emotionally drained from pretending, from carrying expectations, from being strong in a way that's been slowly breaking you, and suddenly the mask slips. Not because you planned it, but because you can't hold it anymore. That moment when everything you've been pushing down starts rising to the surface, that's the moment most people fear. They think it's the end. They think I'm losing control. They think I'm falling apart. They think this is weakness. But let me tell you what it really is. It's truth, finally demanding to be seen, because you can only suppress something for so long before it demands expression. You can only ignore your reality for so long before it forces you to face it. And that breaking point, that's not your downfall. That's your awakening. It's the moment life stops letting you hide. It's the moment where everything fake begins to crack so something real can finally emerge. But here's where the choice comes in. When that moment hits, when the emotions rise, when the walls start shaking, you have two options. You can run back to the mask. You can try to patch it up, cover it, distract yourself, bury it again. Go back to saying, I'm fine. Go back to pretending like nothing happened. Or you can stop, you can breathe, you can face what's right in front of you without running. And I'm telling you right now, that second choice, that's where your life changes. Because when you finally allow yourself to feel what you've been avoiding, you begin to understand yourself in a way you never have before. You start to see where the pain is coming from. You start to recognize what you've been carrying. You start to connect the dots between what you feel and why you feel it. And that awareness, that's powerful. Because you can't heal what you refuse to acknowledge, that breaking moment, that emotional release, that point where you feel like everything is unraveling. That's not weakness leaving your body. That's pressure being released. That's years of silence finally finding a voice. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. It might even feel overwhelming. But growth is not supposed to feel comfortable. Growth shakes you. Growth stretches you. Growth forces you to confront parts of yourself you've been avoiding. But it also frees you. Because once you stop resisting what you feel, you stop fighting yourself. And when you stop fighting yourself, you find peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from everything being perfect, but the kind that comes from finally being honest, from finally saying, this is where I am, this is what I feel, this is what I've been carrying, no filters, no pretending. Just truth. And in that truth, there's clarity. You begin to understand what needs to change, what needs to be released, what needs to be healed. That's why that breaking moment is so important. It strips away the illusion. It removes the layers you've been hiding behind. And it shows you clearly who you are without the mask. Now, here's the real question. When that moment comes, and it will come for all of us, will you see it as your end, or will you recognize it as your beginning? Because everything in your life that is real, everything that is strong, everything that is aligned with who you truly are, it's built after the breaking, not before it. So don't fear that moment. Don't run from it. Don't label it as weakness. Understand it. Embrace it. Be ka. Use. That's the moment where the old version of you begins to fall away. And the real version of you finally has space to rise. So when life shakes you, when the mask cracks, when the emotions come rushing in, don't shut it down. Stand in it. Feel it. Own it. Healing doesn't begin when everything around you changes. It begins the moment you decide to stop lying to yourself. Not the big lies. The obvious ones are easy to spot. I'm talking about the quiet ones, the ones you repeat so often they start to sound like truth. I'm fine. It doesn't matter. I'll deal with it later. But later keeps getting pushed further away. And what you're really doing is postponing your own peace, because healing demands honesty, not the kind you perform for others, but the kind you sit with when nobody's watching, the kind that makes you uncomfortable, the kind that forces you to face what you've been avoiding. And I know that's not easy, because telling the truth to yourself means dropping the excuses. It means removing the filters. It means standing in front of your own reflection and saying, this is what I feel This is what I've been carrying, and I can't keep pretending anymore. That's a powerful moment, not loud, not dramatic, but deep. Because in that moment, something shifts inside you. You stop running, you stop numbing, you stop distracting yourself from what needs your attention, and instead you face it. You face the pain you buried. You face the disappointment you never processed. You face the fear you tried to ignore. And here's the truth, it might feel heavier at first because now you are not avoiding it anymore. You are acknowledging it. But that weight you feel, that's not you getting worse. That's you finally becoming aware. That's you finally becoming aware. And awareness is the beginning of healing. You can't fix what you won't face. You can't release what you won't recognize. You can't grow beyond something you keep pretending isn't there. So when you start being honest, really honest, you give yourself something you've been denying for a long time: permission. Permission to feel. Permission to not have it all together. Permission to be human. And that permission is powerful because it breaks the cycle. No more pretending everything is okay when it's not. No more carrying pain in silence. No more acting like you're unbreakable just to meet expectations that were never yours to carry. You begin to understand that healing isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming real. It's about saying, this hurt me, this affected me, this is something I need to work through. And once you say it, once you own it, it loses its power to control you, because what you name, you can face. And what you face, you can change. Now listen closely. Healing doesn't mean the pain disappears overnight. It doesn't mean you wake up tomorrow and everything is fixed. No, healing is a process. It's a journey of small, honest moments. Moments where you choose truth over comfort. Moments where you choose growth over avoidance. And those moments add up. Eve. Retime, you admit how you really feel, you take a step forward. Every time you stop suppressing and start expressing, you create space for something new. Every time you choose honesty, you move closer to peace. And that peace, it doesn't come from controlling everything around you. It comes from being aligned with what's inside you. No conflict, no pretending, no internal battle between what you feel and what you show. Just clarity, just truth, just you standing in your reality without fear of it. And here's something most people don't realize: when you're honest with yourself, it changes how you show up in the world. You stop reacting out of hidden pain. You stop making decisions from unspoken fear. You stop building relationships based on a version of you that isn't even real. Instead, you become intentional. You know what you need. You know what you feel. You know what you're working through, and that awareness makes you stronger, not weaker, because now you're not guessing, you're grounded. You're not avoiding, you're evolving, So if you've been waiting for the right time to start healing, this is it. Not when everything is perfect, not when life slows down, not when someone else gives you permission. Right now. And it starts with one simple question: what truth have I been avoiding? Sit with it. Don't rush it. Don't filter it. Don't push it away. Let's talk about something we all say we want, but very few people truly experience: real connection, not surface level conversations, not small talk, not the kind of relationships where everything looks good on the outside, but something feels missing underneath. I'm talking about the kind of connection where you feel seen, understood, accepted without having to perform. Now, here's the truth that most people don't want to face. You cannot build real connection on a false version of yourself. It's impossible, because connection is not built on perfection. It's built on truth. And if you're not showing your truth, then what people are connecting with isn't you. It's the image you created. And that might get you attention. It might even get you approval, but it will never give you fulfillment. Because deep down, you'll always know, they don't really know me. And that feeling, that quiet emptiness, that's the cost of hiding in relationships. You can be surrounded by people. You can be in conversations every day. You can even be in a relationship and still feel alone, because real connection doesn't come from proximity. It comes from authenticity. It comes from the moments where you drop the guard, where you speak honestly, where you allow yourself to be seen, not as perfect, but as real. That's where the bond is formed. Think about the people you feel closest to in your life. It's not the ones who impressed you the most. It's the ones who are real with you, the ones who opened up, the ones who shared their struggles, the ones who didn't pretend to have it all together. Why? Because truth creates trust, and trust is the foundation of every meaningful relationship. But if you're always holding back, always filtering, always calculating what's safe to say, you never give that trust a chance to grow. You stay guarded. And when you stay guarded, others stay distant, not because they want to, but because they can feel the wall, even if they can't explain it. There's a difference between being present and being open. You can be in someone's life and still be closed off. And when that happens, the relationship can only go so far. It hits a ceiling and a limit created by fear of judgment, fear of being misunderstood. So you play it safe. You share a little, but not too much. You express, but only what feels comfortable. You show up, but never fully. And the result, a connection that never reaches its full depth. But let me tell you something powerful. The moment you choose to be real, you change everything, not by forcing connection, but by allowing it. Because when you open up genuinely, honestly, you give others permission to do the same. You create a space where truth is while alchemid, not judged, and that's rare. That's powerful. That's what people are craving, even if they don't say it out loud. They want to feel safe enough to be themselves, just like you do. And that safety starts with someone being brave enough to go first. Why not let that someone be you? Now understand this. Vulnerability doesn't mean telling your story to everyone. It means choosing the right people and showing up honestly with them. Because not everyone deserves your openness, but someone does. And when you find those people, those real, genuine connections, you'll feel the difference immediately. No pressure to perform, no need to pretend, no fear of being exposed, just acceptance, not because you're perfect, but because you're real. And in that space, you grow, you learn, you heal, you build something meaningful, something that isn't based on image, but on truth. So if you've been feeling disconnected, if you've been wondering why your relationships don't feel as deep as you want them to, don't just look at others, look within. Ask yourself, am I showing up as my real self? Or am I still hiding behind a version of me that feels safe? Because connection isn't something you find, it's something you create through honesty, through openness, through the courage to be seen. And the moment you stop performing, the moment you start revealing, that's when your relationships stop being surface level and start becoming real. Open up.